Hi everyone, it's Olivia from Girlybunches, and in this week's video I'm going to attempt to show you how to crochet around some knitting. My knitting isn't very good. I get some wonky edges in my knitting, so that's why this looks pretty wonky, but apart from the wonkiness of the knitting, the crochet edges are still very pretty. And it is just basically getting the hook in where you can and making it evenly spaced as possible, and just giving your work a different look. So you've got this nice contrast between the knitting and the crochet edge. So I hope you find this video helpful. I haven't sewn in my ends there, as you can see. And if I just do a little zoom in, and there you go, you get to see where I've crocheted and then done this scalloped edging. So I'm not really going to talk about the scallop edging because I've covered that in another video, and I'll put a link in the description box down below, but I'll talk about that once I get going and show you how I did this. Okay, so I'm going to use a 3.5mm sized hook, and I used a 4.5mm knitting needle to make this sample. So I've gone down a full size in the crochet hook, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to force too much into this edge so that it fans out. It is going to fan a little bit, but we want to try and avoid as much as possible. I'm going to just put my yarn onto my 3.5mm hook, and that's the cast on edge, and this is the cast off edge. And I'm going to put my hook up into this corner, so this is along the cast on edge, and this is the rows. So this is the stitches across, and these are the rows up. So I'm going to put my hook up into that corner as far as possible and just do a slip stitch there. Okay, then I'm going to do one chain, and now I'm going to find this in the stitch that's in between the rows that I can see. So that's one row and that's another row, but there's a row in between those two because this is in simple garter stitch, so each row is plain knitting. So I'm going to aim to put my hook as close to the edge as I can and in between those two rows, and just do a double crochet. You may know that as a single, but I'm British, so I call that a double. And again, I'm just going to put my hook as close to that edge as possible and just do a nice little double crochet in there. I'm going to do that all the way along. I'm going to keep having a look to see if I've warped it too much. I'm going to try not to do that. If it happens, it happens, and hopefully once you've gone around the other edges it will have evened itself out, but the first edge does look a bit scary when you first do it. But as you can see, the difference between the unfinished edge and that crochet edge is, you know, rather smart, isn't it? And if you were doing a blanket, then you could make different knitted squares and use the crochet edge to put edging to then make it easier to crochet the two squares together. Just an idea. So you couldn't, if you were not just going for a decorative edge but a functional edge, then this would be a good way of doing it. I'm just going to keep going, so I'm quite pleased with that so far. So I'm just coming up to my end of my first side. Again, sorry if you can hear the wind outside. It's not me. It's the weather. Up into that corner, what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 stitches to bring us around the corner. And if you've seen my tea cozy video, then you'll see how I talk about doing an edging on crochet. So I'll put a link in the description box down below to that, and I'll put a link also to the time code where I start talking about doing the crochet edge around the crochet work. So I'll cover that in the description box down below. So I'm just going to go here in between these casting off stitches, which look very much like crochet stitches. So that's sort of, we're back onto familiar territory there. We can see where we can put the hook. And it's all just experimental, really. I know I'm not really sort of giving too much advice here, but it is just sort of watching somebody else do something sometimes, isn't it? Just to see if what you've been doing looks okay or what you're happy with doing. I'm also rambling a lot in this video, sorry about that. So yeah, I'm just making my way across, and I'm checking each time, and I'm really happy with how that's looking. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back when I get back to here. So there we go, I've gone all the way across that edge there. I've got my 3 stitches in the corner, and that's sort of taking care of that pinched in business that was going on when I cast off my row. So now I've got this sort of tricky area again to do, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on this side to try and get the stitches in as evenly as possible, and I'm going to come back when I get down to here. Right, so I've just got this one edge to do now, and I'm going to try and straighten this one out as much as possible. This one's curving back up again, but when we get the scalloped edge on, I don't think we're going to notice it so much, and it's still keeping the same shape. So, but this isn't, you know, it's laying flat on the table, so I'm not, you know, it's not kind of doing this, which is what I don't want it to do. And then on this final edge, which is our cast on edge, if I get this to focus, again we've got something similar where we can see where we can put the hook through these edge parts here, so that's not so difficult. So I've gone along that final edge now, and I've ended up in the corner, which is where I want to be to start doing my scalloped edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do 3 trebles into that same space on that corner. I've done a scalloped edging video before, and that's also linked down below. That's basically where I start doing the edging for the tea cozy. So I'll go in. I've gone into that more in depth there, so if you want to watch that video, but basically I'm just going to do 3 trebles there, because ultimately I'm going to have 7 on that corner. I might even just do one more there now actually. So I'm going to do 4 on that corner, so that's quite tight there now, and I'm going to skip 1 stitch and then do a slip stitch into that second one along, and then I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to miss 1, and I'm going to do 5 trebles into that second one along, and then I'm going to slip 1, sorry, not slip 1, miss 1 there, and do a slip stitch into that second one along, and that's creating my scalloped edge. Now I did a video which is linked down below, part of doing the crochet edging, and it's more in depth where I talk about doing this scalloped edge, so check that video out. But it's basically the same principle. You're not really going to know if you've got enough stitches unless you've carefully counted it out to know to fit the scalloped edge in. So the scalloped edge is brilliant because you can just sort of make it fit by skipping a few stitches here and there to get the desired effect. And that's all I'm going to do, is just try and work this scalloped edge now across these edges. So I'm going to do that and come back. So there we go, I've just gone round the whole edge and finished off up in the corner where I started. Just going to pull that end in there, and there we go, that's the crochet edge around some knitting. So like I say, it is just finding the best place to put your crochet hook and making it fit, and you too can do some crochet edging around your knitting. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love a thumbs up if you did, that would be great. If you haven't subscribed, why not subscribe, and you get to see my videos that come out once a week. So yeah, that's my tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video.